All right, now let's calculate the area of some triangles. So the formula for doing that is right here. It's just area equals base times height divided by 2. So again, I'm going to have a base and a height, and this time when I'm doing a triangle, I'm going to divide whatever I get when I multiply the base and the height together by 2. So the base, the easiest way to think of the base is just the flat side kind of on the bottom of my triangle. So here's the base. The height just means what's the length from the highest point on the triangle down to the base. So this right here is the height of this particular triangle. Right? If this triangle, if I flipped it around, it would have a different base and a different height, but based on how it's set up right now, how it's sitting right now, the base is going to be this bottom side, the height is this one right here. So let's say for this triangle, the base was 24 inches and the height was 19 inches. And I want to figure out what the area of this triangle is. It's just going to be the base, which is 24, times the height, which is 19, and I'm going to divide that by 2, right? Just using this formula right here. So I can cheat and use my calculator. 24 times 19 is 456. So the area is 456 divided by 2. Because all I've done so far is multiply these two together. I haven't divided by 2 yet. Now I'm going to take that 456 and divide it by 2. So the area of this triangle would be 228 square inches. What about this triangle? Well, the base, again, the easiest way to think of it is what side's on the bottom. So my base is right here. The height is the distance from the highest point on the triangle to the base. And so it turns out in a right triangle like this one, the height is just this side right here. So however long this side is, here's H, here's B, however long this side here on the left is, that's my height. The base is just the length of this bottom side. So again, I would use the same thing. If the base were, let's say the base is 10, and let's say the height then is 5, area would be 10 times 5 over 2. You can probably do this in your head at this point. It's going to be 50 divided by 2, which is 25. So 25 square units, depending on what sort of units I was using here. Last one. Okay, so this one's a little bit different. Still going to use the formula area equals base times height over 2, but the height of this triangle is kind of tricky. The base is going to be this, the bottom side still, so that part doesn't change, but figuring out the height of this triangle. What some people want to do with problems like this is say, well, here's the highest point, and so the distance to the base is that line right there, but that's not actually correct, so don't do that. What I would have to do on this one is I would have to pretend like this line sort of continues out and then pretend like I have a side right here. This distance right here is actually the height of this triangle. So if you have a triangle where the highest point you can't draw a line straight down to the base, you have to extend the base and then draw a line from the base up to the highest point. So if the height of this triangle were 7 and the base over here was 6, let's say, same thing here. 7 times 6 is 42 divided by 2, 21. Let's do a couple of examples. So on 3A, I have this triangle right here in blue. So we're not actually including this part right here. This is just to give us a sense of what the height of this triangle is. So this triangle's been flipped over. So this one right here is going to be my base. Whatever side is flat, basically, is my base. So, but what it asks for is perimeter and area. So I'm going to try and write kind of small. Perimeter, I'll do right here. Area, I'll do over here. Alright, so the perimeter, that's the length of all sides added together. And so right now I can see that one side is 19. This long side here is 41. And then I have this side right here, and I don't know the length of that side yet. What I can see though is that this side that I'm calling X right now is the hypotenuse of a right triangle that I know the lengths of the other two sides for. So to figure out this missing side right here, I'm going to use a Pythagorean theorem. Right? Like I said, X is a hypotenuse, so it goes by itself on one side. We can call this one A, we can call this one B. So on the other side I'd have 27 squared plus 30 squared. So X squared is equal to 27 squared plus 30 squared. Let's figure out what those are. 27 squared is 729. 30 squared I happen to know is 900. Those two added together would give me 1629. So last thing I need to do is take the square root of both of those. So X is going to be 40.36. That's the perimeter of this triangle. In other words, that's the distance I would have to travel if I wanted to go all the way around the triangle. The area is a different problem. Figuring out the area is a different problem. Remember the formula? The area of a triangle is base times height over 2. So I need the base and I need the height. Well, like I said, I'm going to use 19 as my base. It's the flat side, the side that goes left and right. The height, it tells me right here, is 30. So they did a lot of the work for us on this one. The base, I said, was 19. The height is 30. I'm going to multiply those together and divide them by 2. So I'm going to do that all in one step. I have 19 times 30 divided by 2. So 285. So the area of this triangle would be 285 square inches. So let's be clear, area and perimeter are not the same thing. Perimeter is how far I have to travel if I want to go all the way around the triangle. Area is how much space does the triangle take up. Okay? All right, same thing on 3B. We want the perimeter and we also want the area. So I'm going to do the perimeter here and I'll do the area over here. I have one side here is 29. That's all I have right now. I don't have either of the other two sides. I don't know the hypotenuse here, and I don't know this other side. Before I can figure that out, I need to know either what this side is or what this side is. So I can tell already I'm going to use this triangle right here to figure out X. Right? I'm going to figure out what this is using these other two sides. So is X a hypotenuse? Well, no, because it touches the right angle. So 13 is going to be my hypotenuse. So 13 squared is going to equal this side and this side squared and added together. So 13 squared is going to equal 6 squared plus X squared. 13 squared is 169. 6 squared is 36. I'm going to subtract 36 from both sides. That's going to give me 133 equals X squared. Take the square root of both sides. I don't know what the square root of 133 offhand is. 11.53. So X, I now know, is 11.53. So I still need, well, I can fill that in, but I'm still going to have to figure out what Y is. So I know that that side is 11.53. Before I can figure out the perimeter, I need to know what this side is. Well, I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem again. I'll do it over here. 29 squared plus 11.53 squared is going to give me Y squared, right? Because Y is the hypotenuse in this triangle. It's the longest side. It's the side that's across from the right angle. So let's figure out what 29 squared is. 841. 11.53 squared. 132.94. So on the left side I have 973.94. And that's equal to y squared. So I just need to figure out what the square root of that is. 31.21. So y is 31.21. Now I have all three sides of the triangle. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to erase it from here. So I have 29 plus 11.53 plus 31.21, right? 29 right there, 11.53 right there, 31.21 from right there. I'm going to add these three together. That's going to tell me the perimeter, in other words, the distance around the triangle. 29 plus 11.53 plus 31.21, 71.74. So the distance around the triangle, what was it? 71.74 centimeters in this case. So that's my answer for perimeter. Area is just base height over 2. The base is this flat side on the bottom, which is 29. The height is this one right here, which is, I found 11.53. And I'm going to divide those by 2 after I multiply them together. So 29 times 11.53 is that, divided by 2. So I'm going to get 167.19, we'll say. 167.19. If you put 167.18, it would technically be wrong, but I wouldn't make a big deal about it. And that is going to be square centimeters. Okay, this one wants us to plot some points and then figure out the perimeter and area of the shape that we end up with. So A is at 6, -1. So x is 6, y is -1. So I'm going to go out to 6 and down 1. Here is A. B, x is 1, y is -1. So there's B. And then C is at 1, 6. Alright, so I have a triangle. That's going to look about like that. Well, I can do the area pretty easily. Area is just base times height divided by 2. The base, I'm going to call this side down here from B to A, so I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the area is going to be 5 for my base. Now I need the height. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then after I multiply those together, I'm going to divide by 2. So 5 times 7 is 35. 35 divided by 2 would be, what would it be? 17.5. 17.5. So what that sort of means on here, if you want to think of it this way, is if I counted up the number of squares that are inside of this triangle, including these like partial pieces, if I were able to assemble them all together, I would get a total of 17.5 of them. Okay, now I need the perimeter. Well, I know that this side is 5 and this side is 7, but I don't know this side yet. So to do the perimeter, I need to figure out what this side is. Well, since I have a right triangle, it's going to be pretty easy. I'm just going to use the Pythagorean theorem. X squared, since this is the hypotenuse, it's across from the right angle, is going to equal the other two sides squared and then add it together. 5 squared is 25. 7 squared is 49. 25 plus 49 is going to be 74. Take the square root of both sides. X is about 8.6. So if I want the perimeter, I'm going to replace this x with an 8.6. Now I have 7 plus 5 plus 8.6. What would that be? Well, 7 plus 5 is 12. 12 plus 8 is 20, plus that extra 0.6 there. So the perimeter around this triangle would be 20.6.